So this is what's known as a ring of fire eclipse. And based on my understanding, it's a possibility that there's going to be some really big energy coming through. Hello, magical people. My name is Lou, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel and welcome you to this video. We have got quite a bit to go over today. So we have an eclipse coming up just in the next couple of days on Saturday, October 14th. Depending on where you are, it's possible that it will actually fall on Sunday, so be sure to check your local information. For me, it's going to come on Saturday, October 14th. And this is an annular solar eclipse. And annular simply means ring shaped. So this is what's known as a ring of fire eclipse. And based on my understanding, it's a possibility that there's going to be some really big energy coming through. And it's going to be in place for several days on either end. And then we've got another lunar eclipse that's coming up at the end of October. So lots of big energy is in the works. And we are going to go over all of it. Now, keep in mind, I am not an astrologer, so I'm sure there are aspects of this that I'm missing, but in my research, I just kind of found a bunch of things that sort of resonated with me and sort of pulled them together into this video here. So we're going to do a little bit of talking about the eclipse energy, and then we're also going to be doing a pick a card reading, and it will be an option of one, two, or three readings. You're, of course, more than welcome to listen to one, but there will be three to choose from. And yeah, so we are going to get into all of that right now. So let's start with this eclipse. And y'all, first of all, I think you're going to be impressed with me. If you've been here before and you know my struggles with technology, then you are about to be super, super impressed. Because are you ready for it? All right. So this eclipse being a solar eclipse and being again, a ring of fire eclipse means that even though it is a partial eclipse, it will be very noticeable if you are in the path. And I thought that the map that showed the path of the eclipse was pretty cool. So check it out. Oh, look at that. I'm up in the corner now. Hello. But this is going to be the path under which the eclipse will actually be visible. And this, I'm not sure if y'all are even going to be able to see my mouse or not. I'm not sure if that's being captured or not because, again, don't really know what I'm doing with this technology thing. But that red S line in the middle, I guess maybe it's kind of an S. Anyways, that swirly line in the middle is where it is going to be most, you'll be in like the direct path of it, so you'll get the best view of it. And then as, of course, you move further away from that your view is going to be a little bit worse. And of course, all dependent on having a relatively clear day. Let's not forget, if you are in the path of being able to view it, do not look directly at the sun unless you are wearing safety glasses. It really can do damage to your eyes, and there's no need for that. So I just thought that this was a cool map that I wanted to share with you all. So if you are, I can't remember all of the states. It actually is coming. I think it's only about an hour and a half south of me, is right in the path of where it's going to be most visible. And I'm a little on the fence. We'll see. It's going to be, I think, local time to me around the apex of it, where there's like 4 minutes where you actually can see the ring of fire around the moon. um, that's going to be around 9:15. So I personally am undecided. I'm going to see sort of how the energy actually hits as to whether I want to spend that at home in my space and just sort of witnessing how my local environment is impacted by those 4 minutes, because apparently the wildlife sometimes will get very confused by the sudden absence of the sun. But then again, if it's going to be overcast that day, I'm not even sure how different it's going to be aside of like having a giant storm cloud. So again, I'm a little on the fence, but that's just all my personal stuff. Let's get back to the matter at hand. So, like I said, this is going to be some pretty big energy. And what have we got here? So Let me see. I'm going to continue to impress you with my technology. Woo, look at this. So this is the chart here on the, I think it'll probably be the left, we'll see. But this is the chart for this particular new moon and eclipse. And as you can see, we have a stellium going in Libra. So of course we have both the sun and the moon in Libra. That's what's making them look like they're going to be lining right up, is that they're in the same portion of the sky. So of course they're in the same sign. But then also we have Mercury and the South Node all showing up here as well. And again, this is, I also put here the other little chart is because I'm not an astrologer, and so I'm still kind of a newbie. I can't always remember exactly what everything is because it's just my brain is full of many things. And for some reason, I can't get this to stick in there. So I figured maybe some of you are like that as well and could use this visual aid. So really what we've got here is we've got a stellium happening in Libra, in primarily, I think it's the first and second houses. I'm just going to look at my zoomed in here version. Nope, sorry, that's wrong. In the sixth and seventh houses. So the sixth house is the house of work, health, service, and self-improvement. And then the seventh house is marriage and other partnerships. And again, don't forget that this is all Libra, which of course is also all about partnerships. So there's a really good possibility we're going to see a lot of energy sort of illuminated. And now here's the thing. Usually new moons are great times to set your intentions. And then of course at the full moon, we sort of do a check-in on where we are with having brought those intentions to manifestation and sort of a culmination. Of course, this is with regards to short-term goals. And or the steps that we take to our larger goals. And with the eclipse energy, it can sometimes be a bit chaotic as energy goes, and it can also be intense or unpredictable. So what a lot, and of course, you're your own practitioner, do however you want to do, follow your own internal sense of guidance. I'm not sure where I'm personally going to land on this yet. Like I said, I'm kind of keeping my options open for what I do that day. But anyways, my point is that new moons usually are a good time to set intentions when it's an eclipse new moon, because that energy is just bigger and there's a lot more going on. Oftentimes, it can also be a really prime time to be more in observation, be more of as these shadowy parts and are this the literal eclipse happening and things becoming dark in the middle of the day, sort of along the same lines of as within, so without. We can look at that as how maybe certain aspects of our psyche that are typically live in the nighttime and in the subconscious, that those are going to pop up into our more conscious daytime sort of mind. So like I said, I'm gonna see how it hits. I've always got a sort of internal sense of future intentions that I'm kind of keeping my eye on. And I'm not personally as good at rest. I think I tend to be one of those people who, it's like inertia. I go until I don't go, and then I don't go until I go. And sometimes it can be difficult to shift those things. So I'm gonna just kind of see how it feels, and maybe you will do the same, and I'll be curious to see how it has ended up landing with you. But okay, so we've got, what do we got here? We got the house of work and self-improvement, we've got the house of relationships, and then we've got that being impacted by Libra, which is especially under a microscope because we have South Node in Libra and we also have Mercury in Libra. So Mercury is all about communication. And of course, South Node is about what we are releasing and what we are letting go of. So there's a really huge opportunity if we are one of those people who is willing to dance with this energy and available to do so. There is a really deep potential for some really, really deep soul healing, which I think as human beings living a typical human experience, we could probably all use on some level and to some degree. So what else here? Let's see. Sorry, I'm taking a look at all of my notes because it was just really too much. Oh, another thing that was really interesting that I only heard one like actual astrologer in doing my research. I only heard one person reference this specifically, and I think it's because it's not exactly the math isn't 100% there, but there's an almost yod, and almost at the very least, it may mean an intensification to these energies and rather a more directed focal point to these energies. So if you are a person who is inclined to pay attention to these things, um, then there's a possibility that there's going to be an extra special sort of impact to this energy because, of course, a yod in astrology is otherwise called a finger of God. So this oftentimes can point to something that is fated for us. So, okay. So now we have all of this stuff going on with relationships and shedding and self-improvement and bringing that into a place of that Libra energy of balance and harmony and justice. So what are the other two aspects? And being this, I don't even think I said this, so my apologies. But the apex of the yod, because what a yod is it's a pointy triangle. So it's 60 degrees at both bottom angles of the triangle, and then which I think is called a sextile. See, making videos for y'all helps me learn. So thank you all for being my teachers in a very interesting and unexpected way, right? But so we've got the two sextiles at the bottom. That's the other two planets that form the sort of base of the odd. And then there's what both of them are pointing at, where all of that energy is really being directed. And in this case, it is the sun and the moon that are showing up at the apex of that yod. So, like I said, it's not a perfect yod. The sun and moon are both at 21 degrees of Libra, and then the other two aspects of this yod are Neptune and Uranus, and Neptune is at 25 degrees and Uranus is at 22 degrees. So, I guess between 21 degrees and 25 degrees is 4 degrees. So, and I don't know what usually the margin of, I'm sure it's not called the margin of error. I think it's called a yorb. A yorb? An orb. And I just noticed that my computer is about to die. So why aren't you charging? Why aren't you charging? Sorry about that, magical people. I suddenly realized that my computer was about to die and had to get up and plug it in because somehow I must have unplugged the cord and not noticed during my setup. So where was I? So yes, so we've got Neptune at 25 degrees of Pisces, Uranus at 22 degrees of Taurus, and then, like I said, the sun and the moon at 21 degrees of Libra. So we don't have there. It's somewhere within the margin of error, which I think in astrology they call an orb. But to be 100% honest with you, I am not 100% certain about that. So again, not an expert. But anyhow, what's interesting is that in doing some researching about yachts, which I've been kind of doing for a while because I have one in my personal chart as well that I know I need to get some understanding around, but have not yet managed to get as much understanding out of it as I would like. But one thing I have realized is that the apex is the focal point. So the other two energies are showing up in support of moving that energy at the apex forward and allowing that energy to evolve into its next iteration, because that's sort of the whole purpose of everything, in my opinion anyhow, is that there's this expansion that we are all sort of signing up to move ever closer to in some way. So anyhow, so what does that mean? So we've got, what did I say here? We've got Neptune in Pisces, at 25 degrees of Pisces, and that is showing up in the 12th house. So Neptune is the natural ruler of Pisces, so this is very typical Piscean energy. It's very spiritual, it's very dreamy, it's very imaginative. It can involve shadow aspects of deception, because everything always has two sides, and disillusion as well. So we've got that is one base of this triangle of the yod. And then at the other end, we have Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So we've got sort of a mashup of that airy, Aquarian, eccentric, future thinking, sort of idealistic energy showing up with the Taurian energy of being very earthy and being present in what's happening, and sort of like having appreciation for beauty in life and the sort of like finer things in life, clothing, art, culture, as well as SI sort of comforts, like being cozy and comfortable, and, having the experience of eating good food and things like that. So that's kind of a lot of different energies. And like what it seems to be kind of pointing at for me, anyways. Oh, and I don't even think I talked about the houses for the all right, yeah. So the house that the well, I mentioned it with Neptune and Pisces. So Neptune and Pisces, like I said, that's in the 12th house, which is the house of religion, spirituality, and philosophy. And then we have Taurus showing up, or I'm sorry, Uranus and Taurus showing up in the first house, which is the house of self and ego. So you can see therein lies one of the issues with yods, is that they do, although they can show up in support of the energy at the apex, there there's some sort of discordance, whether it's between one of the longer lines or the shorter line at the bottom. That's like, yeah, there's things that need to be worked through in order to allow that energy to more purely and more effortlessly flow towards that apex. So, like I said, this is an opportunity for some really deep soul healing. We've got Aquarian energy, forward thinking, thinking outside of the box, showing up in the first house of Taurus with what we appreciate, what we like, who we experience ourselves as being on an ego level. Also showing up at that base of support is that Piscean energy, that Neptunian energy of imagination and being able to peer through the thin veil. So some of us may have some very deep spiritual or religious epiphanies or realizations or understandings or moments that come up during this eclipse time. And again, all of that pushing towards that sixth and seventh house energy of Libra and the sun and the moon, as well as the south node shedding what we're moving away from in terms of our experiences and our relationships and how we are out in the world and what we do for work. So, I mean, as sometimes seems to be the one of the criticisms that I have heard of astrology and share, this really is one of those experiences where this could show up in an absolutely infinite number of ways. As you've seen, we've hit on some really, really major themes already. So all I can say is that I'll be doing my very best to remember that self-care is a thing and what it is, and allowing myself to just kind of roll with the energy as it comes in, which perhaps may not be my forte, and that may be one of the things that I have to shed. And I hope you too find your best way to make it through this coming eclipse. So now, time to get into the readings. And I'm about to impress you just one last time here. So Here we have the tokens for the readings. This is a pick a card reading, and I have already done, obviously, the drawing for the three piles, and I have them right here in front of me. And Group one is, okay, first of all, let me set the stage a little bit better than that. Oh, if you're still here with me after 25 minutes of yammering about, well, I probably did some setup at the beginning, so it probably hasn't been quite 25 minutes. But anyhow, I've been talking a long time. Thank you so much for being here, magical people, and sticking with me through this journey. I hope you're finding this energy as interesting as I've been finding doing the research around it. So what I chose for tokens for this pick a card reading is some seeds that I have gathered from various flowers around my yard. And um, I agree or can see that they are perhaps not the most like, it's usually people pick pretty flowers or pretty crystals and things like that. But in light of all of the messaging that I was getting about this eclipse, about how it's really going to kick up the dust and challenge us in some ways and illuminate some things to us that may be less than pretty, I wanted to bring the symbolism of these seeds to you and to myself because like the daylilies, take number one, for example, but this is true of all three of them. The pods in which those seeds are contained are degrading and decomposing and not looking their best. They're going through that sort of death energy, that releasing of energy, the leaching out of that which was once and is no more. But within them is contained the miracle I find with seeds, just in general, because a seed is a thing. And then suddenly, magically, it germinates and it becomes it's infinite potential. Like these are sort of the aces in the tarot. There's infinite potential for the most idealized iteration of the thing that the seed will be or could be. So I think they're really symbolically interesting. And in light of all of the eclipse energy that we talked about, I thought that it was a good representation. Daylilies and snapdragons and calendula. And for those of you who are curious or very on top of their grammar and editing skills, it is entirely possible and I think perhaps accurate that snapdragon with regards to the flower is actually one word. I just really like the aesthetic of two words better, so I took some artistic license with it. But daylilies, snapdragons, and calendula are all just beautiful flowers that have a variety of colors and scents and and beauty, and they're all very hardy as organisms and bring beauty and joy to anybody who takes the time to stop and spend some time with them. But they're also vastly different. And when I was meditating before starting this video, I was sort of meditating on the energy of each one. And perhaps you can choose this as your metric for selecting a reading, or just simply that you like this, that, or the other thing, whatever metric you choose. It's up to you. But with the daylily, the sort of energy that came to mind was this energy of somebody who both dances. It's not even somebody. It's not a personal thing. It is the depersonalized energy of dancing yet getting shit done and doing that at the same time. Snapdragon is a bit younger. It feels like it's a bit more, it's a younger type of energy. And again, depersonifying it. So I don't mean younger in terms of age, but it's younger in terms of there's more a sense of simple joy and play, like the way children play, that way of youth that is different from the way that we play when we're adults or even teenagers. It's like there's something very specific in it. I think a lot of it has to do with discovery, that sense of wonder, because you don't know anything because you're a kid. You're just seeing most of this for the first time in this body, anyways. And then calendula is very much the energy of also, again, like I said, joy and vibrance, but also great sensitivity. And, they close up at night and then reopen the next day. And whereas snapdragons will sometimes last for several days, but neither close, like once they bloom, that's the way they look until the heads fall off. And daylilies, which don't close up and only last a day. That's why they're called a daylily. So they have this one beautiful moment of joy and beauty and gorgeousness, and then the next day, um, they've already like half sort of started to compost. It's really kind of interesting how fast they break down. So, like I said, three very similar, vibrant, beautiful, wonderful, joyful energies, yet distinct in their way. So, having said all of that, and that was a very long preamble, thank you so much for sticking with me through it. We are going to just go ahead and, well, first of all, I'm going to take a sip of tea, and then we are going to dive ahead, right into reading one. Ooh, and I will change my scene back to just me. Okay, so reading one, Daylily friends, this is going to be your reading, and I did keep this pretty free form, so I didn't really ask any specific questions. I set the intention to just let messages come out. So we're just going to flip them all over at once and see what we see. Oh, a little bit of glare there with I have the ring light on, so sorry if you're getting a lot of glare off of my glasses. Ooh. Daylily friends, this one may be a little intense, but I think it's going to be like, remember earlier when I said the possibility for deep healing is here? I think that might be you that I was talking to. So what do we got? All right, we've got, like as per usual, we've got a collection of oracle cards and tarot cards. And to start off with, I feel like I need to highlight the fact that you actually also pulled the Justice card, which is the card of Libra and the scales. So that is pretty interesting right there, and also a major arcana. And I kind of feel like that sort of sets the stage for indicating that there really is an opportunity for you to bring something into balance that has maybe been out of balance. Now, one of the oracle cards we have here is the chameleon card, act as if. So I sort of feel like there's like an aspect of fake it to make it. And I forgot to say this in the beginning. I really should have totally looked at my notes one more time before I decided to start the readings. But one of the other things that came up when I was doing my research is that a lot of these energies about releasing and healing, these are already things that we're sort of like semi-aware of, or things that are sort of in the works. So for you, if it's coming up in terms of relationships where a boundary needs to be reset, or maybe it's just a relationship that it's time to make some more significant change around, or whatever the case may be, this is tending to look at stuff. It's not going to be so much this stuff is hitting you out of left field. Like on some level, there's already a certain level of awareness of what this is probably pointing at. Okay, back to the reading itself. So a little bit of fake it till you make it here. So I interrupted myself to say that I think like I said, this is pointing at stuff that's already there. So if there's something that you have been trying to bring into balance, then part of it is like, if you've been feeling a little stuck with that energy, then, part of it is just, I mean, another way of acting as if is to just, like, sometimes the faking it is actually the making it. So if it's something where you've been sort of struggling with, and the reason why I say that is that you had two other oracle cards here. Well, I got a bunch of cards, but you had a couple of others here. We have communication is key, and we have storm. So I kind of feel like there's been some level of like exactly what I'm talking about, and we've also got the Three of Pentacles here. So I do tend to think that, I mean, maybe this has to do with your work. A lot of times the Three of Pentacles does have to do with what we make or sometimes it's apprenticeship, so perhaps you're a student. But we also have that there is the King of Pentacles here. So energies can be yours, they can be others. Take what resonates, leave the rest, all the usual stuffs. But if this is your work, or your like you're a student and it's something like that, then I feel like maybe this would be like the authority person, or your mentor, perhaps, or perhaps you're the mentor for somebody else. It's hard to say, especially with a group reading. But honestly, it's kind of hard to say anyways. This stuff is pretty mercurial. But I do have also the Knight of Swords showing up here. So a couple of things about the Knight of Swords. Like, this is energy that is moving very swiftly. And I feel like, again, with that communication and key, I feel like maybe there's been a lot of, unpleasant conversation. So yeah, um, I also have culminator of vision here, or I'm sorry, culmination of vision. So, that again sort of leads me to believe that this is something that has sort of been coming for a while, and this is a moment where it's almost like there's a shift internally for you, or at least there's an opportunity for an internal shift. And like, I am very much a person that would love to have one of those, like, very easy to point at singular experiences of massive shifts. That's just sounds cool in a way, and like a really interesting experience. But I think for most of us, and this has been mostly my experience thus far, is that it's more that there is a series of smaller shifts that occur. Sometimes so small a shift that it's hard for the ego to even discern, especially if we're in a space of being in self-judgment with ourselves. Um, but that even though they're smaller, they're more numerous, so that over the span of time, there is still a really massive shift. It's just not the moment of epiphany where, the clouds opened and whatever. It's just not like that. So I sort of feel like this has been coming around for a while, and that there's a real opportunity to, like, significantly and permanently, like, shift out of that space of being in storm. Now, the last two tarot cards we have are the Weaver of Visions, which is otherwise known as the Queen of Cups. So this is very benevolent, very gentle, very poetic, very intuitive energy. And then we also have the Ten of Boons, which in other decks is known as the Ten of Pentacles. So this is the happy hearth, happy home, happy family, being at a place where we are able to be genuinely, authentically, and thoroughly satisfied and at peace with our day-to-day experiences. This doesn't mean that life is perfect, because, oh honey, just baby, life is not ever perfect, ever, for more than a few heartbeats at a time, which is what makes them all the more precious. But this Ten of Pentacles energy is more that, like, not that everything is perfect, but that everything is pretty damn good. And even when things go bad, you have everything you need. You have all the tools, you have the support, you have the material resources to get those needs met, even when challenges come to you. So, group one, my daylily friends, I do feel like there is a real opportunity for leveling up, for truly aligning yourself in a way. Like I said, I really feel that Queen of Cups energy is, very, very, like, I feel like this is your energy, and this is sort of like what you're moving towards, and sort of what's on the table energetically for you to work with. So Yeah. I have completely forgotten to say this up to this point, but um, before I completely end your reading and you click away, please do give a thumbs up if you like this video. It really is super, super helpful, and I um, would really deeply appreciate you even more than I already do. So if you haven't subscribed, feel free to do that, of course. Thank you so much for being here. Most importantly, above all, don't forget to be kind and gentle with yourselves. And Daily friends, I will see you soon. Oof, that was good. That was good. Okay, let's clear the table physically and energetically from our Daily friends. I have three drink choices. I think I'm gonna go for tea. Tea feels like the better choice. Okay, so group two, Snapdragon friends, if you selected that token or number, then this is going to be your reading for the eclipse. One thing I forgot to mention during the preamble is that when we talked about the energies that were being kicked up and sort of what areas of life are likely to be most impacted, one thing I didn't say that I meant to is that a lot of the sort of dust that's likely to be kicked up or that you are likely to notice is most likely things that you're already aware of on some level. So instead of this being things that are sort of coming out of left field, this is more things that have already sort of been in place, and there's this new growing awareness and understanding of it. So having said all of that, I'm going to lay this all out. I did keep it pretty free form this time, so I have a bunch of oracle cards and a bunch of tarot cards, and I didn't really have a specific question that I asked so much as just what. Ooh, interesting. Oh, very interesting. Oh, group two, group two. Okay, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. This is very, very exciting. Okay, so and yet very. Like, I feel like, I mean, the scales is a perfect image here because this energy does seem to have some opposing energies to it. So let's start off with these two. So for two of your oracle cards, the first one we have is vulnerability. And then, like I said, study and contrasts, my Snapdragon friends. We also have immunity. And at first glance, those feel like very, very different energies. But what is also interesting is that in between these two cards was this, which is the new moon eclipse card, which is what's happening, Snapdragon friends, is this is a new moon eclipse. So, um, I said for group one that based on the cards, it looked like this was bound to be a powerful eclipse for them, and I'm not seeing anything different in your reading so far. So, we have from vulnerability to change, to transformation, to an illumination, a completely different perspective, something you don't see every day that is that is allowing a sort of alchemy to occur that is bringing about immunity. Okay, so furthermore, we have the Hierophant and the Eight of Swords. So, and then also, actually, I'm just going to do it this way too. We have for two other of the tarot cards, we have the Two of Swords and the Emperor. So what do we have here? We have two cards that are sort of the kind of the epitome of the energy of self-limiting beliefs. Like there's several cards in the deck that sort of like are specifically pointing at the ways in which we limit ourselves with the way that we think about and judge ourselves. And these two cards, both the Eight of Swords and the Two of Swords, are one of them. The Eight of Swords speaks to feeling like we don't really have a good direction that we can move in, um, but or feeling like we are bound or not having access to information in some way when that isn't actually the case. And then, of course, the Two of Swords is having to make a choice, but feeling like you don't have all of the information available to you. So, and both of those are paired with major arcana. So we have the Hierophant and the Emperor. The Hierophant is the spiritual messenger. Typically, I mean, it can be yourself, it can be outside of you. I kind of feel like for you, based on elsewise what I'm seeing, which I haven't quite gotten to yet, I feel like this is pointing mostly towards the way you see yourself or the way you communicate yourself or your spiritual journey or your uh, connection with the divine in whatever way you define that or experience that. So that's kind of what I feel like is that this is actually this Hierophant energy is actually your energy. So it's kind of like group two. Oh, snapdragons! Like this is really quite lovely. This is really, really beautiful. So we have that this truth that you have a direct line to the divine. Anytime you want it, it is yours. You've already been granted this. Like it is your birthright. And as I say that, I just got goosebumps all over my body. But you are in some way in a place where uh, you haven't stepped into it yet. You haven't fully stepped into owning that aspect of yourself yet. And then we also have the Emperor, which is the very much the energy of being the, in his highest scope, anyways, being the benevolent ruler of one's domain. And of course, one's domain can be defined in a variety of ways, but at minimum, or at maximum, as the case may be, um, it's you're all you really have dominion over is yourself. And in this life, anyways, in this reality, how that largely shows up is our corporeal self and our corporeal experience. So I feel like you both have this emperor of the energy of being so strong and so assertive and such a like good leader. And perhaps these two energies are paired. Maybe you are a teacher, or a someone who speaks on your understanding of something unique, and you use that direct line to the divine, so to speak, to disseminate that information in a responsible way to others. But also, there's this need to make a choice and feeling like you don't have the information. So, like two self limiting beliefs, two very, very powerful energies showing up with, again, those three initial oracle cards of moving from vulnerability, having a powerful change, and then into this place of immunity. So we have here, and like I said, this is all pointing at energy, so energy that already exists. So the ways in which you limit yourself, the ways in which you judge yourself, the ways in which you second guess yourself, the ways in which you don't allow yourself to make choices because it feels scary to be assertive. Because you're afraid that if you step in the wrong direction or make a wrong choice, that you're going to get hurt or you're going to cause hurt, or something like that. Like all of the ways in which we keep ourselves boxed in. Um, but, and here's the doozy, my Snapdragon friends, is our final two tarot cards, and our final oracle card is, again, we have the Emperor. Although he's not called this in this deck, I do think of the Emperors as the, the lions. They're majestic, apex predators. And responsible. So we have the lion spirit here of be generous of spirit. And then we also have the Six of Spells and the Starlight card. And the Six of Spells is also known as the Six of Wands, and the Starlight card is also known as the Star. So, similarly to group one in a way, there's a real opportunity for you to reach here towards something that you deeply want, but that you are keeping yourself back from even recognizing that want. But the Six of Wands, this is Tippereth energy. This is heart space energy. This is the energy of returning home victorious after a battle won. So I feel very much like once you have this powerful change and step out of these two energies of the Two of Swords and the Eight of Swords, and step fully into this energy of the Hierophant and the Emperor, and your uh, the greatness of your potential, truly, then you will have won that battle. Like, in some ways, like, I mean, it's like, we could be our own best friends and our own best caretakers, or there are so many ways in which we could be kinder to ourselves, and that's one of the things that we have control over, in a way. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like it doesn't take a huge amount of work, and it's not like, especially with self-limiting beliefs, it's not like once you do it once, it's done forever, because it's not. It's like once you do it once, you make that, 1 degree of progress or 2 degrees of progress, and then suddenly you know it, there's there has been a massive shift. And so I feel like these are things that have been showing up for you, that have made you feel vulnerable, because you are. And if I haven't said this already, take what resonates, leave the rest. I feel like I always say that before I'm about to say something that some people might find hard to hear. Um, but if you have felt vulnerable because, like, what's the best way for me to put this? If one of the things that has stopped you from stepping into the greatness of your own potential has been the cruelty that you've inflicted on yourself, then, because we as humans often take our internal experience and project it out into the world around us in various ways, then that may have meant that one of the reasons you felt like you couldn't be fully yourself was because other people would judge you, and you were so judging yourself that you couldn't bear the thought of other people judging you that way. But once you see that you truly are this Hierophant Emperor energy with just limited potential, direct access to the divine, this, responsible, benevolent leader and caretaker, once you're able to see that that's your true energy, and that these self-limiting beliefs that we all carry, so no shame, like, don't add additional judgment to yourself on top of the judgment that you already have. But once you see that that's just something that you need to continue to work through, and you let more of that, the spirit of your core self come out, then you will feel more immune. You will feel less vulnerable. And that will feel like, uh, yeah, King of the Forest. King of the Forest, my friend. Snapdragon friends, that was awesome. I thank you so much. Gosh dang it, I forgot to say it again. Please do like this video. It really does mean a lot to me. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, above all, my Snapdragon friends, Don't forget to be kind and gentle with yourselves, and I will see you soon. Ooh, these readings are just so beautiful. So beautiful. Hmm. Clear the table and the deck energetically and physically of group 2. And move to group 3. Okay. Hello, group 3. If you selected the number 3, the token of the calendula, then this is going to be your reading for the October 14th solar eclipse. And one thing I forgot to mention in the preamble is that when I talked about the different energies that were going to be being kicked up during all of this, it's everything that I saw sort of indicated that these will be energies that have already sort of like been bubbling below the surface for some time now. So instead of being an energy or being the energy of coming out of left field and striking you very unprepared, these instead are going to be offering further revelation and understanding and perspective on things that already exist and that you're already on some level aware of. So I did keep this pretty freeform. I didn't ask any specific questions. When I set the intention for drawing the cards, I only let or set the intention for whatever messages need to come out. Um, Awesome. And okay, all right. Ooh, ooh. Oh, I'm loving this. Okay, all right. Group 3, calendula friends. Where do I want to start with this? Okay, I've got a mix of oracle cards and tarot cards here. So, let's start off with a couple of tarot cards, or I'm sorry, oracle cards. So we have here, heighten your vitality. So I feel like one of the things that you may feel called to do during this eclipse cycle is to give yourself the opportunity to revitalize. And of course, because we're all individuals, this is probably going to show up a little different for all of us. So for some of us, this will be resting. For some of us, this will be spending time with friends. So everybody's going to experience what heightening their vitality looks like. But this is an invitation to feed yourself the things that you need to thrive. So it might also be just giving yourself good food. Nutrition totally just popped into my mind for some reason. We also have, interesting to show up on the new moon, but we have the mutable moon of nothing is yet set in stone. So I feel like this is also kind of like pointing at that Piscean energy. Piscean is mutable energy, and Neptune is the ruler of the sea. So I feel like there's also this energy of like this is something that's been around for a while, and this isn't the final culmination of the thing, but it is a major turning point. And the reason why I say that is that you also had, for tarot cards, we had both the Tower and the Four of Wands come up. And I think that it's very interesting that these came up together, because I kind of don't feel like this is a tower energy in the way that they usually occur. Like usually tower energy is very much kind of like is a sudden rapid like degradation of energy, like things start crumble down because they must. And I feel like what actually, rather than this being like that sort of massive, it's something that there's also this Four of Wands energy. So there's very much the Four of Wands. I'm sorry, yeah, the Four of Wands. You also had oh, you had the Four of Swords show up too. Okay, but we'll get to that one. So the Four of Wands is, well, one, it's a very joyous celebration. It's like, I mean, look at what these people are doing. These people are having a party. It's also very balanced. It's very celebratory. So I feel like maybe This could show up for you is the one thing that you were sort of planning on doing during this time isn't going to work out the way you thought and ends up being more muted or more subdued. Or perhaps it's lacking in balance in some way. Rather, it's the Rather, it's the beauty that comes from the symmetry of the Four of Wands or from the celebration of the Four of Wands. One of those aspects of it is going to be missing. Then, and that's going to it's going to reveal something. It's okay. So one of the other cards, the Oracle card that came up, is the Violet Flame. Not violent, violet. The Violet Flame. And honestly, I don't remember what that one means, but I literally have the book right in front of me. So I'm just going to take a quick look. Are these alphabetical? Yes. Okay. Most of us experience a dark or difficult time at some point or another in our lives, and though it may feel like it will never end or never be better, the Violet Flame card is here to tell you that it will be. The only way to conquer the shadows in our life is to turn off all the lights and face the darkness head on. This is a process of purification. Ooh, I just got goosebumps. The Violet Flame shines its light, providing you with the way and means to see your way out of the inner darkness once the shadows have been conquered. The experience you are having right now, although painful and challenging, which again does point to that tower energy, is providing you with the means and opportunity to clearly see what is. So yeah, like I said, this is something that has been around for a while, and there's an opportunity being presented because nothing is yet set, but there is an opportunity for you to gain new perspective. And in doing so, perhaps that will heighten your vitality. Okay, let's see. Let's see. What else do we need here? Okay, in the center of the fractal image is the symbol of the bat. In animal medicine, the bat is a symbol of change. He holds the light of the violet flame for you as a means of guiding you through this process of change. Okay, that is pretty beautiful, group three. Okay, so what else do we have here? Which way do I want to go next? I feel like with the heighten your vitality and also with this Four of Swords card showing up, I do feel like giving yourself the opportunity to rest and the opportunity to have some quiet will allow you to have some clarity around owning this Emperor energy. And it's interesting, did the Emperor show up in all three of them? No, 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 no. Just two, I think. I think just in group two. I ran out of tea too, so let me try some water. Okay, so the Emperor is the benevolent leader, the benevolent caretaker and steward and leader. And um, I feel like, and he's also very aware of his boundaries and he's very clear on where he wants to go. So even though nothing yet is set in stone, I feel like there is a real opportunity for you. I think that one of you know exactly what shadows are going to be illuminated, or if you don't, you will soon. And it might be a little painful. It might lessen the joy of the experience in the moment, but it is giving you an opportunity to gain some objectivity as well. That's one of the other things about the Four of Swords card. It's not just about um, rest, but there's an awareness about it. You know, it's as a lot of times I think of this as the meditation card. So it is literally kind of giving yourself space so that you can get some more clarity about where you want to head towards. Because I feel like agency is the word that's coming to mind here. I feel like there's an opportunity for you to step more into your sense of agency. We also have, for an animal oracle, we have Dear Spirit, bring a gentle touch. So yeah, and I just got image in my mind of, again, pointing back to that that mutable energy of things not being complete yet, things being in a state of flux in a way. I very much got a vision of somebody making pottery on a potting wheel. And it's very much one of those things that if you have a deft touch and you bring a sense of gentleness to it, then you can. I mean, obviously, there's some really masterful potters out there that make just unbelievable works of art. Um, but if you try and use force, then you just end up with a mushy pile of clay and you kind of have to start all over again. So I feel like this coming apart of things for you, this sort of tower energy, is going to allow you to see yourself differently and choose the path that is uniquely yours, and recognizing that your uniqueness is a gift. And even though it doesn't always feel that way, even though it may sometimes feel like a burden and has in the past, and like, you know, life isn't magical, chances are it will again in the future, that beneath those feelings and those temporary experiences of having those unpleasant feelings, there is the deeper truth that you are a beautiful, unique, mythological creature of creating, like soaring and, breathing fire. And like you can bring great change, you can do great things. You are uniquely you for a reason. And it's okay for you to see that about yourself and own that about yourself. The Two of Challenges, this did also show up in group two, is also known as the Two of Swords. So, and I really like the way this deck puts it, because, it is very much about having an honest look in the mirror, taking the blindfold off. The blindfold is something that shows up a lot of times in the Two of Swords, and allowing yourself to see yourself for who you are, and recognizing your value and your uniqueness and the ways in which you stand out, and that that's nothing to be ashamed of. Oh my gosh, all three of these readings have been so intensely beautiful. Um, my goodness. I again forgot to say it. Gosh dang it, why can't I get into the habit of this? But if you did like, if you're still with me, then you liked it enough to take a fraction of a second, I'm hoping, to give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe. And of course, above all, my calendula friends, this eclipse season and always, don't forget to be kind and gentle with yourself. And I will see you soon.